Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me. It's so beautiful to see you all. Well, not essentially see you, but to have this, to share this space with you. I feel like I'm seeing you all at least. So today I would like to extend our talks into forgiveness. So last week, I touched upon forgiveness of self. This is part of our compassion series, which is, a very big part of mindfulness and awareness. Because I've spoken so many times of, learning to sit in silence and learning to just create awareness to things that are happening in our life, right? So when we learn to just quiet our thinking mind, that rational mind, this front lobe that's just going over and over and over, thinking, when we learn to actually quiet that thinking mind and just, quiet, we start connecting with ourselves. We start connecting with something greater than ourselves as well. But essentially, we're connecting with our heart, mind, and just soul connection, that foundation, which I believe is our connected, our navel to our heart, to our mind. It's like these points are so connected, and just creating that solid foundation of just peace and calmness and equanimity. And it reminds me of just a tree. I did a talk earlier today of just how when we have our foundation firmly rooted in calmness, and just equanimity in general, when things happen, things are going to sweep us away. We're going to get upset and all of the above. We're human, but at least if we have that tinge of recognizing when we're pulled out of that steady calmness with compassion, obviously, allowing this human experience to happen, but again, coming back to the center place, to the breath, to our intuition, our heart, mind, and soul connection. So, with that being said, this is just extending our heart practices on forgiveness. Because I firmly believe through my experience that, recognizing when I see myself caught in reactivity, or if I see I'm stuck in a storyline of, I'm not good enough, someone's not bad, or I'm not lovable, or whatever it is, being able to just say, okay, Sarah, I see that this part of you is here, and that's okay. I'm going to allow this reactivity of whatever it is to be here. But also just going into that's compassion towards self, forgiveness of self, forgiving ourselves for all of those things that we could have done in the past that we may have resentment towards, right? But again, when we are holding on to blame and resentment, whether it's for ourselves or for others, we are closing our hearts. We are living in an imprisoned place. So, when I feel that throughout our lives, if we are to go back and look back to some of the most important moments in life, I believe those important moments for me come with, connection with others. Those just special moments that we had this beautiful connection with someone, and we did something so amazing together, whether it was laying in the grass or watching a good movie, no matter what it is. But what happens is when we are stuck in blame or resentment, we can really be caught in our own world where we're living from a place of resentment, a place of distance, a place of aloneness, essentially, right? And this awareness, this aspect of forgiveness is so important because it just helps us open our hearts. It doesn't mean we are condoning or anything. We're just loosening up the armor that we could be having around our hearts that essentially is affecting us, not the other person, right? So the two things of mindful presence, right, is mindful attention, recognizing something's here, whether it's resentment or blame or shame or anger, whatever it is. That moment you recognize that it's here, and you recognized it. And that right there is just, it's the moment of going into awakening. It's just so beautiful. And when you recognize that you are stuck in a story or blame, shame, whatever, that second part of just, okay, I see blame is here, I see shame is here, or not worthy enough is here. And you know what? It's okay. I understand. I'm going to create space for you to be here, right? So again, the wings of presence that I've learned from my teacher, Tara Brock, and Jack Kornfield, it's the wings of presence, recognizing what's here, and then that allowing, that compassion. But so in reference to the allowing part is just developing that capacity to be able to release blame, to release resentment, just opening our hearts, which it's not easy, right? People can say, oh, it's very easier said than done. Oh, forgiveness is easy. Yeah, it's easy until you have to forgive someone who hurt you, no matter what they did, right? And it's weird. I've spoken on my other talks. For me, it's always been easier to forgive other people. I always believe people are souls just doing the best they can with what they got. So for me, I'm more of an empath, and it's been very easy to forgive others, but then at the same time, I think they're souls and they did the best they can, but I don't set boundaries, and then I've had the same harm happen again. We don't want that either, right? So again, when we feel wounded or betrayed or hurt towards somebody, it's natural for us to armor up. It's natural for us to create resistance and not want to talk to them, not want to forgive them. And the more injury that we have from this, whatever it was, betrayal or just harm in general, whether they knew it or not, whether they knew they were harming us or not knowing they're harming us, right? Because we're all doing the best we can. Sometimes harm happens without them consciously understanding what they're doing. But when there's very difficult harm to us caused by another, and that wound goes very deep, of course it's going to be very difficult to forgive. And the more injury, the more armory, the more resistance, the more blame, the more that storyline keeps repeating over and over and over in our heads, right? Maybe that person is bad, or just whatever it is. It's just that resistance, that armory, that blame, that resentment. So again, and when we have suffered a lot of pain from someone, it can take years to forgive that person, you know, and we can't just wish it away. Like in all my businesses and or teachings, whatever it's been, everybody wants a quick fix on whatever it is. Doesn't matter. You know, I've worked with dog training, taught English, personal training, you know, and as you can tell, I've got some strong arms. I was a trainer. So it's like everybody wants a quick fix, you guys. And there's nothing, there's no quick fix to anything. And if it is not going to have as much value, right? So if there's something that you are forgiving, trying to forgive someone, and you see that it's not easy for you, don't get hard on yourselves. Please understand that you cannot bypass it. You can't just pretend it to go away or pretend everything's better, because if you do that, you are denying it, and it's going to just be suppressed and it'll come back again. So you really have to understand that some things, especially when there was a lot more injury, it's going to take time. One of my teachers talks about a story. She talks about this story that she brings up that's funny. That is, this little girl goes to her parents, or goes to her dad first, and says, "Dad, where did life begin? How did life start?" And he said, "Oh, it came from God and Adam and Eve, and they met, and then they had babies." She asked her mother this. And then life started, her mother said, right? And then she went to her father and said, you know, "Dad, how did life begin?" And he's like, "Oh, humanity evolved through the monkeys. We started off as monkeys, and we've just evolved into humans." And then the little girl goes to her mom and says, "Mom, why does Dad say we're coming from monkeys and you're saying we come from heaven?" And her mom's like, "That's because that's your dad's side of the family." So again, and I just thought that was great, because we can be so identified with a belief, right? Or we can be identified with that resentment, that blame of just pushing that other person out of our lives and carrying this resentment and pain, and identified with that story that keeps repeating in our head. But making it as like, with anyone who doesn't agree with us, they're our enemy, right? But, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, whether the person did this on purpose or not, it's you are keeping your heart armored. So if you don't lean into forgiveness, your heart is going to stay armored, and you are going to carry that resentment through life. And let's say it was a partner that hurt you. You are going to carry that blame and resentment into your next relationship. And just in general, it doesn't have to be a partner. I mean, just friendships, you know, you can carry it into it armoring you up where you don't want to make new friends. So again, it's just learning how to soften the heart. You're not condoning anything anyone has done to you, but just learning to let down the armor and just forgive and see this person knowingly or unknowingly how they hurt you. With time, being able to forgive them, because again, it keeps you in prison, not them. And there's a meditation I'm going to upload for you to follow for this. At the same time, knowing that it takes time, and just setting the intention to loosen the armor and step into forgiveness is going to help you soften that armor just with setting intentions. And if there's someone you have to forgive, then maybe do it every day until you feel your heart is lightened and freed a bit more. So I want you to bring to mind right now, I want you to close your eyes if you feel safe, or just bring in keep it open with a soft gaze. And I want you, as your eyes are closed, to just bring to mind where you might be carrying resentment or blame or experiencing grief. And as you bring maybe the image of this person or the feeling of resentment, and maybe where you can feel it in your body, I want you to contemplate this question as you're meditating. And the question is, what would you have to feel if you couldn't stay in anger anymore? If you couldn't stay in that story of the person is bad. Okay, so again, what would you have to feel if you took the story away, the blame, the shame, the resentment away? So just sit with that for just a moment. What is it that's difficult that you might have to feel? Now I invite you to just open your eyes again, coming back to the space. And if you're here and you did that, I would love for you to comment in the comments below and let me know how that felt, what came up for you. From what I've heard through some experiences with some of my students is that we feel that pain of whatever that person did to us, that sting, that achiness. If we take away the resentment and the blame, right, we feel that pain. We feel maybe the fear of it happening again. Maybe even feelings of unworthiness, like that we're not enough. They did that to us because we are unworthy of love. Maybe you're experiencing that. So again, when we loosen our blame and our resentment, we have to touch into that vulnerability. And the more you can touch into that vulnerability, putting the story and the blame and resentment behind, the more you're going to grieve and feel and heal. But again, it could take days, hours, months, maybe even years. But setting that intention, because when you forgive, you're letting go of the armory. You're softening that armory so you don't take it into the future. And of course, you set boundaries. You're not condoning anything that happened. You set boundaries that you need to do to prevent. I've had my own experience where, someone has hurt me many times over and over, and I forgive because it's just easy for me, but I didn't set boundaries. And then what happens is I get hurt again. So again, learning to set boundaries is so crucial and so important in this process. Just from not from preventing future harm. And again, last thing is just setting the intention, knowing that it's not easy and sometimes it will take longer than you want it to take. But there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. It's just the intention. So thank you so much. And I hope you like the video. Please hit a like, comment below, and I will put a follow-up meditation for forgiveness of others. Thank you so much. Aho.